Hello, my name is Walter McGrory and welcome to Call of the Runes. This video is the first in a series that's going to take a deep dive into the Elder Futhark runes. And this video specifically is a short introduction. I made a couple of these short introductions before I start with going into each of the different runes into detail, where I will be explaining who I am, what this series will be about, and also what the runes are and what sources I'm using. So, let's begin. Firstly, this is going to be a weekly series. A weekly series covering all 24 of the Elder Futhark runes in detail, and then looking at some of their aspects a little bit more deeply at the end. For each rune, I will be specifically looking at 3 different sources of information. Firstly, I'm going to be looking at the rune poems. Secondly, I'm going to look at any cultural significance based on myths, sagas, or other first-hand accounts. And finally, this series will be looking at any runic artifacts, like rune stones and amulets that have been found using this rune. If you would like a quick primer on what runes actually are and what they were used for, there's a short separate video that you can find on this channel and should be up at this moment on what the runes are and how they were used. If you would like a bit more background information on the rune poems or any of the other sources that I'm using, there's also another 2 videos about that are already up on this channel. Then about me. I wrote a book called Call of the Runes. And I have been fascinated with runes for a very long time. This started with a Christmas gift from my mom. She gave me a book about divination. And in this book about divination, there were a couple of things. There were some tarot cards, there was a pendulum, there were some dice, some other cards. But there's also a set of 25 plastic runes. And that is where my fascination started. I read this book that my mom got from a discount bookstore many times. And afterwards, I looked at many different other books about the runes. And, well, I have a lot of excellent resources on the runes. What is often neglected in these books is where the interpretations of each of the runes come from. So they give you a wealth of information of what the runes mean, but rarely tell you why we know that the runes mean what they mean. This is something that I'd like to give you in these videos. I'm going to show you all the sources that I use and where my base interpretations are based on. In the end, it is of course an interpretation, but at least you can see where my foundation is. Take from that what you need. Before I go on, I would like to take 2 things though for the little bit more experienced rune user. You might have just heard me talk about the 25 runes that I had in my gift box with my divination set that I got from my mom from Christmas. They included a blank rune. The blank rune is a relatively new concept. Comes from 1984 and Gerald Gardner, who was the first to write about it. In rune sets where it's included, it often represents void. I will not be discussing this rune further on in this video because it is impossible to use a blank rune as a writing symbol or as a symbol on amulets. It's often giving the meaning of void or destiny or Odin, but if you have a symbol that means Odin, then every amulet that you have is covered with this rune because there's an infinite amount of blank symbols on every amulet. Because I'm looking at the runes not just as a divination, separate stones, but I'm also looking at the runes as a writing system, and I'm looking at the runes on amulets, and I'm looking at the runes culturally. I feel that I should leave this one out. The second thing that I'm not looking at is the reversed rune, or the Merkstaff rune. The idea of the reversed rune or the Merkstaff rune comes from tarot, that a rune in divination would mean something else when it is flipped upside down. Personally, I don't use this because one of the more famous symbols in Norse mythology, the Helm of Awe, consists of 4 Algis runes, or at the very least of 4 Algis runes. And these 4 Algis runes are all pointing in a different direction, up, down, left, and right. If a rune pointing in an opposite direction would have an opposite meaning, that means that these 4 runes would cancel each other out. That's why because again, I'm also focusing on amulets and not just on single runes for divination, tend to not use this. Well, that's a short bit about what the series is about, a short bit about who I am, and if you are interested, then click like and subscribe, or watch any of the other videos that are up right now. Thank you for watching.